that story live from West Virginia for us. Mike, thank you. John.
Sandra, New York City opened its first shelter for migrants on Randall's Island as thousands of people have arrived from border states into the Big Apple, specifically from El Paso. A former U.S. Marshal tells Fox the city had been completely stretched thin.
I can tell you this, when the migrants from Venezuela came into El Paso, and they were, El Paso was basically overwhelmed. They were truly overwhelmed. They had to set up camps. And at that time, I believe it was an emergency. But people up north and northeast, they know what's going on the southwest border. The border has moved, and they're feeling the effects of the border crisis right now.
Even though Texas Governor Greg Abbott is getting all the attention, El Paso has sent some 11,000 migrants to New York City, compared to Abbott, who's bussed about 3,000 people there. Senior correspondent Laura Engel is live at the city's migrant camp on Randall's Island, Manhattan's East River. What's going on there, Laura?
Hi, John. Well, we've had a small turnout so far here on what you would call opening day. Still, the massive Migrant Relief Center has opened its door and is prepared to welcome hundreds of migrants who have made that journey from the southern border here to the Big Apple. And we've got photos and videos to show you. We've seen 2 migrants arrive on van so far, and we know many more are still coming. Asylum seekers will get cots when they arrive, food, shelter, and a wide range of services. Now, while some are calling this setup a tent city, the Humanitarian Emergency Response and Relief Center, its official name, has one main tent which has 449 cots. The city had to move those tents from the Bronx to this location due to flooding, costing the city over $600,000. The 84,000 square foot facility has a lot to offer, which the city emergency management commissioner has called a short-term solution for people to figure out what their next destination will be. Now, some of these amenities we've been talking about include COVID tests on arrival, a rec room with couches, TVs, Xboxes, and board games, and a phone bank to call family and legal services, along with a cafeteria.
There will also be snacks that are provided, coffee, tea, water, 24 hours a day. And those meals are all culturally appropriate. It is South American fare.
The New York Immigration Coalition pushing back on the tent encampments and the plans to bring more migrants here, releasing a statement to Fox which reads in part, Mayor Adams must immediately halt any future plans to use or expand tents around our city. Instead, prioritize the use of underutilized buildings to house new asylum seekers and intensively work to decompress the New York City shelter system by providing permanent housing to our unhoused neighbors. Now, other critics have said, while these types of tents are fine, it's just they want to see this type of help go to the vets and go to the homeless that has already been an overwhelming problem for the city. So we'll see how the day goes. John?
Laura Engel for us on Randall's Island. Laura, thank you. And it's curious, Sandra, that despite the fact that El Paso, and it's El Paso's Mayor Oscar Leeser who's done it, has sent 11,000 some odd migrants to New York City, and Abbott only 3,000. It's Abbott that's taken all the heat, and nobody's complaining about Leeser.
Indeed, and former Vice President Mike Pence joined us last hour. He's always been very passionate about what is happening at our southern border. He told us this.
I've been down to the border many times in Arizona in the last year, and when you have the guys wearing the green uniforms look you in the eye, Sandra, and say, we have lost operational control of the border. The cartels control our southern border. That should cause as much alarm as those images that people see day in and day out of thousands of people streaming across the border.
And we see those images every single day. If you're watching here, John.
Yeah, and a couple of weeks ago, the Vice President was down in Central America. He was talking with the President of Guatemala, Alejandro Giammattei, who told me when I interviewed him that he'd had but one conversation with Kamala Harris about the root causes of migration and nothing since then. We should point out too, Oscar Leeser, the mayor of El Paso, just happens to be a Democrat, which may, if you're a suspicious person, feed into the reason why nobody's in power in New York City or Chicago are complaining about what it's doing.
Interesting point. John, thank you. By the way, we're also watching markets at this hour as we enter almost the final hour of trading here, and we're looking at the Dow, which